it was able to treat medical conditions. It was able to treat Bell's palsy. It was able to treat people that had a stroke or other types of facial paralysis when nothing else could help and get them back. It also has an FDA approval.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Jennifer Hossen of Kind Skin and Wellness, a certified laser technician with 20 plus years in aesthetics. She launched the practice in Ann Arbor during the pandemic with a people before sales mission to create an inclusive, welcoming space. Since then, Kind Skin and Wellness has earned 150 plus five-star reviews and multiple local, state, and national awards, while leading community initiatives like free period product outreach and complimentary skincare and hygiene kits. She's now here to share how selling with integrity and giving back can build a thriving business. So Jennifer, welcome and glad to have you here.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for having me. I was really excited.
Yeah, so I'd like to know a little bit more about your story. Like, what got you into aesthetics?
So it's kind of a wild thing that you wouldn't necessarily think kind of led to this. But so I was a theater minor in college, and I thought I was going to do some theatrical makeup. And I had all these grand plans for all these, I loved prosthetics and I loved how you could just completely change something by simply using basically, art. And so that's why I went into aesthetics actually first. And then when I was in aesthetics, when I was young, I was 22, they were briefly talking about lasers. And I was like, lasers? There's lasers that do this? There's lasers that take hair away. There's lasers that make your skin better. And showing these before and afters. And I was like, this is the future. I want to be in the beauty spaceship every day. And so 180, I decided I wanted to learn as much as I could about the laser and the laser side of things.
Got it. And so that brought you into aesthetics, and now you have your own practice.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, as you were doing, I believe you were like a makeup artist or stylist for some really big events like Grammys, if I remember.
No, that one's not me. But I did a lot of I did print work. I did Suicide Girls. I did a lot of musicians at the time, things like that, and a lot of local type things. Nothing as big as Grammys.
Okay. So then I guess what led you, I mean, you talked about you got really interested in lasers. So how did you make that jump into now starting your own practice?
So I was working in the laser industry for a really long time. And I started as a laser tech, and I wanted to learn as much as I could about this, even beyond what they were teaching me. So I took as many online courses as I could, and continuing education, and went to different laser trainings. And I worked for some major corporations where they seen that I knew my stuff. And I've always just been naturally a really good salesperson, I suppose. But that's also because I always sell with integrity. And I think it's good when you're meeting the person's need. And so as I was working for these larger corporations, I was a clinic director of sales, and it's funny. A lot of people were like, why don't you open your own? Why don't you open your own? And I was like, do you know how crazy that is? Do you know how expensive that is? Do you know how much time it is? I don't know if y'all know what this would entail. I'm just running one and it's crazy. Opening one is, then everybody's going to know I'm crazy. I was trying to keep that on the down low. No, I'm just kidding. But, and where it finally got to be this was I almost wanted out of the industry before the pandemic. I felt like it was sales over the soul. So many places that I worked, were just, chronically always about the bottom line and, sell. And it's yeah, of course, businesses need to stay open. We get that. And I never suffered from those things because my sales were always good. My clients were always happy. I also refused to conform. I would say, hey, if I have a no sale today, that's because simply they were not a good candidate. and we don't treat people that aren't good candidates. But so it was that time where I was like, kind of like, the love isn't here. And, or it felt like it was like you had to be of like a certain status quo to be able to come into a lot of these med spas and places that I worked. And I was like, healthy skin is for everyone. Loving yourself and taking good care of yourself, that's for everyone. And so when I had this crazy opportunity, someone that I worked for that actually had kind of a not a good, I have like a falling out with. It was somebody I did some aesthetic consulting for that actually still owed me money. Isn't that funny? For years back, and we have the pandemic. This is during the pandemic, and they said, called me, and I was like, whoa. And they were like, do you know anybody that wants to buy a med spa or a laser? And I was like, ha ha ha, you can't even be open right now. Everything's closed. Of course, nobody wants to buy a laser. And my friend was sitting at the table with me during this conversation, and she was like, and I was like, and she's like, you want to buy a laser? And I was like, oh, girl, you're crazy. And I was like, I'm sure I can't afford it, whatever. And she was like, oh, it's a pandemic. Offer him something crazy. And at the time, I just said no. Hey, hung up with them. They called me back again, a week later. Hey, we're willing to go down on this laser a little bit. Do you know anybody? And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is how we change it. Maybe this is the time to do what everyone said I should have done, but to do it in a different way. And so I threw out a crazy lowball offer to them because truthfully, I didn't have that much money. I had $20,000 as my whole life savings and credit cards. I'm a single mom. I was working for a plastic surgeon during the pandemic, and they said no, of course. And I was like, okay, whatever. Well, we tried. And then a week later, they called me again, and they said, does that offer still stand? And they said, well, would you take over our lease? And I said, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm starting a business. So this is happening. But the reason in my head when I was like, yeah, was that I wanted to see people change the way they thought of it. Mm. I wanted it to be a place where anybody from any walk of life could come in and feel comfortable talking about their concerns, talking about the things that because everyone has insecurities, or we all would like a little something different sometimes, and it's not always easy to go into some of these places, you feel like you're afraid to sit down. And, and also like tell people how you're feeling about yourself. It's vulnerable. And I was like, I'm going to make this for everybody. I'm going to do everything that they say you can't, because truthfully, so I'm really big in my community. I volunteer a lot. I admin a group of like 10,000 people for my county mutual aid group. And I was like, what better way to stand on your soapbox than to do it yourself? So if you want all these changes to happen, well, then you know what? You're going to have to do it. And I believed in it. I actually believe in it. I still believe in it. And I knew that we could welcome everyone. I knew that we could pay livable wages. I knew that we could be giving back to the community in so many ways that I've never seen simply from having this platform. And then I knew that if I could do it, so many other people around me would hopefully know that they could do it. And other businesses would know that they could do it. And then we would create the kind of change that's needed for people to A, stop seeing this as just a vanity industry, because it really does change lives. Yeah. And B, really make the world a better place. So that's what Kind is all about. I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm opening a business. And he was so happy. He was like, all right, man, congratulations. My dad's kind of like a rugged mountain man. Yeah. And he's a really cool dude. And I had thought of the name, and I was like, I want to tell you what I want to name it. He was like, what do you want to name it? And I said, I want to name it Kind, because unlike everyone else, like, we are going to be kind. We're going to do it the right way all the time and prove that doing everything the right way, you can still be successful. That's
a great way of putting it. It's a great name also.
Thank you.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into the services you offer, particularly MFace, which I think is one service that you really focus a lot on. So with what is it? Like, what is MFace? What does it do? How can it help?
So the thing about MFace, I like things that have more than just the physical application of making you say, look better. We all want to look better, but we all want to feel better. And we all struggle with a lot of things. And sometimes things that like correlate with how we feel can also be affecting how we look for certain reasons. So I'll talk about that. So M-Face is the only non-invasive treatment that actually rebuilds muscle and connective tissue in the face. There's tons of equipment out there that rebuild collagen and elastin. That's the big one. That ablate the tissue, like maybe burn it off. There's some that contract the tissue, but there's actually nothing out there that's rebuilding muscle and connective tissue. And muscle and connective tissue are really the building blocks of what keeps this all up here, you know? And so when I first heard about M-Face, it's made by BTL, and they are actually a medical and aesthetic company. They're one of the world's like finest companies. They're from the Czech Republic. They're very well known. They have more clinical research, and they started as purely medical, than anybody else out there. And I was looking at one of their other pieces of equipment, and then this M-Face came out, and I was like, this is huge. Rebuilding muscle and connective tissue is something that hasn't been able to be done, right? Non-invasively. And so many people are looking for a natural, non-invasive option, versus a surgery, and they don't want it to hurt. And a lot of people, I'm cool with any body mods, by the way. I'm pro whatever body mod you love, but a lot of people are starting to kind of move away from that injectional treatment option, that Botox, that filler. And they're great sometimes, but we're also seeing now as time goes on with people who have been doing these forever, different types of issues that aren't always great. So something like this that could lift the skin and kind of give you an instant facelift non-surgically, I thought was really cool. But one of the reasons that I also thought it was really cool is that it was able to treat medical conditions. It was able to treat Bell's palsy. It was able to treat people that had a stroke or other types of facial paralysis when nothing else could help and get them back. It also has an FDA approval for treating TMJ, which, believe it or not, is a really big problem. A lot of people have that, and that can also affect the way you look with the alignment. Helps treat sleep apnea. These are all things that make you feel not so great during the day, you know? And so I was like, this is just really, really cool. Nobody has this thing yet. I was the first person to get this thing in my county. I still am the only person to have it in the county. So I think enough people don't really know about it yet.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at the pictures, it's just really outstanding. There's lots of clinical research, and it uses high frequency electronic stimulation with radio frequency, with also there's some deep wave focus ultrasound. There's some other things depending on what you're doing with the procedure. It also actually permanently can remove fat cell in the double chin. I like to call this treating the phone face. Because we all be having the phone face right now, you know what I mean? Everybody's like this. And so you can actually treat this now too. But I seen the results, I believed in it. And so far, I think enough people don't know that we have it, but I have had 100% client satisfaction with it.
Okay.
And we've been able to treat some people that have had things like Bell's palsy and TMJ, and they're having life-changing results.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, because you mentioned that the biggest difference with this is rebuilding the muscle, the connective tissue versus the collagen. And
yes, it does both.
Yeah, so I want to dive a little deep in that one, because I think most lasers, when people think about lasers, they think it's more surface or just skin deep. So you're either maybe removing wrinkles or just burning off the outer layer, so it grows back, it looks nicer, newer, shinier. But rebuilding the muscle, I mean, and you kind of compared it to a facelift.
Yeah.
So are you actually really changing the, not, I guess maybe the shape of the face?
Yeah, the facial structure. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And why this matters, like I said, is that, you can fill anything that you want, right? But even when you fill, too much is going to get heavy, and necessarily some people like me, I have chubby cheeks. I don't really need any fill, but I take the lift. I'll take all the lift you can give me. So it's really, really neat that it's able to do that. And we know that it does that. There's tons of backed clinical research, and they've used both CT, MRI, different types of technology to actually where you can literally see that the muscle has rebuilt. So this is actually really futuristic stuff.
Okay. So then in what scenarios do people consider this treatment, consider this methodology versus, hey, I heard that there's other laser, it'll make my skin look smooth. Like in what situations is this really going to be helpful?
This is really going to be great for anyone that's been losing weight. And a lot of people are on the GLP-1 Ozempic route lately, which, getting healthier and things like that. Well, the problem is a lot of those people are also losing muscle and connective tissue because of rapid weight loss.
I
So
see.
with that being said, that's like one of the things that it's great for, as well as, of course, aging. We also have a population. We have people are living longer. They're feeling better. They're being healthier, and they want to look the way they feel, and a lot of people also don't want to have the risk anymore of, like, surgeries have a big risk. They have a big downtime. Botox and fillers, same thing. You could have a great result. Hopefully you will. You might not. And we also have people, here's another one. We also have a lot of folks that neurotoxins aren't really working for anymore. There's some folks with years. I mean, people have been doing Botox now. There's people that have been doing it for 30 years. And then they've switched. They've been on different toxins. It stops having the same level of efficacy.
Okay.
And you can only fill so much, right? So I think for a lot of those things, it's great. And again, with the other medical applications, the quality of life, a lot of people that have TMJ have that like clenched looking jaw, or like scrunchy.
Yeah.
And now these people are just having like a completely different, facial shape. It's going back to what it was. And what's really cool about this too is that it's all computerized. So there's no room for technician error. A lot of types of equipment out there, obviously, a technician like myself is going to hold an applicator. We're dialing in some settings, we're trained, and, things like that. But I mean, are people perfect? No. And maybe machine's not perfect, right? So the great thing about this is we're just in the room, we're setting them up and we're hanging out in there with them for 20 minutes. What's going to happen is they're going to get some pads that are going to go on different areas depending on what their concerns are. There's TMJ pads. There's pads to lift the mid-face. There's now pads to lift the eyes. There's pads for the forehead. And then there's also that submentum that removes the double chin here. And then they're going to get a grounding pad. It's going to show, it's all plugged in. Hey, this is on where it needs to be. It's 100% connected. It shows their entire face on a computer screen. It measures the body temperature. So we already know that everything is safe, and it lights up where it's like, okay, it's all on here, check. It's all on here, check. And then they've got 20 minutes where they're just gonna lay down and chill. It feels weird, but it's not painful either. So that's the other nice thing. Unlike some of these, pokes and injections that hurt, or you need numbing cream, you don't need that. Same for any type of like ablative laser or deep thing that's like ouchy. It just feels weird. I think it feels like, it depends on the area that you have it done, but it's like you get a permagrin. There are some videos of me on Instagram. You can watch me having it done a few times. And so your face like, it's kind of funny, but it's not uncomfortable. And so I think that those are like really some of the things that are helping it stand out.
Got it. Okay. Now, I know this is a little bit more of a newer treatment, but what are some common misconceptions or myths that you hear when people come in and they're looking for something like this, but maybe they have a different belief about it? Like, what are the most common misconceptions you hear about this type of treatment?
I think people are just sometimes skeptical. Wow, this can actually do this. They see my before and after pictures. They're like, that did that. Because sometimes you're like, that's crazy, right? So I think some of it is that. I think it's also getting people to switch over. The thing that is about M-Face, though, is that it's not a one-time miracle. You do have to do it a couple times. It's recommended 4 to 6 times, and you try to come in about once every week or two. So sometimes people are wanting that more instant gratification. That's what might be a harder switch over for someone. If you're getting a filler, you get pumped up, you leave, right? If you're getting Botox, that usually takes, a few days to like up to 2 weeks to fully kick in, but people can kind of see that. And I think because they don't see the downtime sometimes, they're like, is this too good to be true? You mean I can go to work? I can put makeup on? I'm not going to be red? What are you talking about? Like, I'm not going to have like peely crazy skin? No, no. You get to continue, like, you can leave here and do everything that it is that you've been doing. So I think the misconceptions are that people still think that something needs to be a little scary or painful in order to work,
Yeah.
and that enough people just don't necessarily know that. And I think some people just still have no idea it's out there.
Okay.
We don't do a ton of advertising because we're a small business.
Yeah.
Although you can find this in New York, in California, there's tons of celebrities that have been doing it, that have been endorsing it now for a long time. Michigan, we're not necessarily what you'd always consider a beauty hub. There's some places, and especially Ann Arbor is a little crunchy. You
Mhm.
might know this is the healthy side of town,
Mhm.
but that's good. And that's the other reason why I was like, hey, this belongs here, because people don't want to put things in their body, or people don't want to have to not be able to go to work or go play their sports. You can go play pickleball after M-Face.
Mhm. Wow, that's incredible. Now, I'm curious, Jennifer, when it comes to creativity, what role do you think creativity plays in how you approach your client care? Because I mean, when people think about health and think about wellness, I don't know if creativity is the first word that comes to mind, but how important do you think that creativity is in what you do?
I think it's extremely important. I think for a lot of reasons. I think that it lets people coming into this space, you can feel and you're going to see that it's a really creative space. It's filled with all the walls are filled with artwork that's made by local women and minorities.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily feel like, it's not one of those, like I said, there's no marble floor, there's no chandelier. We got fun things in here, but it's kind of designed to be like your house, but with a really cool artistic edge. Like people are like, oh my God, I love this leopard couch. I want to hang out in here. And so I think that's important. And also, why it's important is because all different types of people, again, can feel comfortable coming in here and either finding out about this service or something else. It's not some of these traditional med spa vibes where, like, okay, we only feel like it's, for Real Housewives, or we only feel like it's for, and I'm like, no, remember, we're all hanging out on this planet together. And even though we might be different, we've got a lot of similarities, and we all want to have great skin. That's universal. We all want to feel good about ourselves. So I think that's really important as well. I think when people come in here too and they see that vibe, now they're like, okay, I can be me. I
Mhm.
can be me.
Mhm.
I had a laser rep that came in. I won't name the company, but reps come into the offices all the time. And the minute he walked in, he was like, "Oh my God, I found my people." And I was like, "Well, hello." And this is really funny. He pulls up his sleeves. He's covered in tattoos, flips out a septum ring, and he was like, "They would kill me for this." I'm a company right now. He was, but I can tell you're going to be cool. I was like, absolutely. Come as you are. Beauty is in all different forms. That's the thing. We see beauty everywhere. My goal is to help people love themselves and other people as much as possible all the time.
And I think that's a great way of looking. I'm curious, how is that tied into your vision for the practice? Like, what's your vision for kind skin wellness?
I mean, long term, I have some big ideas. I actually did meet with Kevin Harrington of Shark Tank
Mhm.
last November
Mhm.
because truthfully, I think that the world needs a kind. I think that this is such a loving and welcoming space. And I know there's other spaces that are like it. I'm sure people are doing it everywhere. I hope they are. But I would love for other places to have this community feel. Like when people come in, we have hundreds of skincare products. They're made by local folks. We also have medical grade lines too, of course. And it's all about working together. The same with the local art. The same with anybody that I hire for anything, if it's marketing, if it's website, if it's whatever, it's local folks. And we're like showcasing our talents and the talents of other people and what we do. And so long term, I would really like, by the way, they did say yes. And they loved me and I love them, by the way. we didn't figure it out yet, but I'm hoping that maybe sometime some good things would be coming. But I think that something like this is really what the world needs right now. We need to unite. And
Mhm.
also, we need to be more accepting of seeing people feeling the way they feel best presenting. So that's the long term goal really is to obviously, keep doing what we're doing, spread it out and continue for, other people to see that and to be able to help the community more. I think, the better I am, the better everyone around me is, the better kind is, the better all of our people are around here. And so that's the kind of thing that I want to see it continue to be successful and even be more successful. I would maybe love to, have other, and if there's other, clinic owners that are like, wow, I'm interested in something like this. Hey, reach out to me. Like, I want to be your cheerleader. Like, I want you to do this too. Cause there's room at the table for everybody.
Mhm.
And so I would love to also just see more people start to feel that vision of like, hey, yeah, like we're stepping away from some of this, we have to fit into a box. And now we've got boxes everywhere. They're all different shapes and sizes, and we're able to sell in ways that make people feel good, you know. So I mean, my long-term goal is I would love to see it expand,
That's a wonderful.
and keep doing what it's doing. And anybody that wants to be a part of that, or even just see other people get on board with something like that. You want to name your place Care, you want to name your place Love and Affection, whatever it is, I'm here for it. So, and I think that I hope other businesses take suit. I hope the really big guys say, hey, because truthfully, if I can do it as a single mom that started her business, with a little bit of money and credit cards during the pandemic, uh, anybody can really do it if you have the heart for it and the passion for it. And I think, how can kind fail? How can anything that's kind fail?
Well, that's a great way
So,
of looking at it.
and yeah, and I started with one hair removal device,
Mm.
which is a Luminous, one of my favorite brands. And now, we have, six different machines in here from only, 4.5 years ago.
You've come a long way.
So, and we don't, and I never had an advertising budget. There's no corporation. There was no, but it really is that word of mouth. People see what you do. People see who you are, and they trust you. And maybe it grows slower than a lot of other things. And if I could figure out how to maybe market well or do some of that, I'm hoping to learn how to do that or have someone. I finally did just have a marketing person. We just hired a marketing person.
That's good.
Yeah, so we're gonna figure it out. But the slow grow is okay when we're always doing the right thing. You're never gonna have any problems.
That's a great way of running your business, and also your life as well.
Absolutely.
Now, Jennifer, where do you think the future of aesthetics is going?
Oh, I think the future of aesthetics is also, I think if we look back, it was only outward, and that's why my place is named Skin and Wellness.
Mm.
We want whole body care, right? Not just the outside, what's for the inside. How do we do that? We have supplements.
Mhm.
We have other types of procedures that help do other things in the body, right?
Mhm.
We have Dr. Shaw, who's our medical director, come in and if you're not feeling so hot, let's get your labs drawn. Let's get your blood work done. Like, let's do an ultrasound or whatever we might need to do to make sure that people are living their best life. I really think it's going to be more of a full body focused to where people are like, hey, and because a lot of times what's happening inside directly correlates to the outside, right? If you had, a gluten allergy and you didn't know and you're eating it the whole time, your skin might be crazy, right? If you had an allergy, if you were anemic, if you had, and so many people don't go get these tests regularly. So, and I think like when you see like I don't do the IVs here, but Dr. Shaw does. And so you see people wanting to focus on the whole healing of the whole individual, not just looking beautiful. Of course, we want to look great too. And I think that also extends into how we treat other people. When we start to feel good and love ourselves, wouldn't it just be so much easier to do that for everyone else?
Yeah, and it's a great way of looking at it, especially if you want to change uh, the beauty industry, the aesthetic industry. It's all about looking through different viewpoints, and
Yeah.
exactly like you mentioned. So now, Jennifer, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at kindlaserandskin.com.
Yes, thank you.
My last question for you then, Jennifer, is what does beauty mean to you?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, beauty is certainly in the eye of the beholder, but I believe all people are beautiful. I believe that this whole world is has beauty. There's beauty to be found everywhere. And why do we like beauty? We like seeing things that make us feel a certain type of way. So what beauty really means to me is, as far as my person is, what makes when I see something, what makes my heart happy? You know, what makes me when I see people doing good things, that's beautiful. It's like it's the whole combination. So I think it's hard to pinpoint that on one thing, but I hope that we all are striving to have our insides and outsides be just as beautiful and for us to be more open minded towards other types of beauty for other types of people that may not resemble us or look like us, or we might not necessarily agree with. But I believe beauty can be found everywhere if one's seeking it.
Beautifully said. Well,
Thank
there you
you.
have it, Jennifer sharing her expertise. So, Jennifer, where can people contact you and your practice?
You can reach us on our website. We do have a chat bot that'll come directly to one of us. So you can reach us by that 24 hours. You can also reach us by phone. Our phone number is 734-657-7674. But we also have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm like, are we missing anything? I have to think about it. Any of those ways, you can also contact me by email. My email is laserbeamqueen
I love it.
at gmail.com. And that's been my email for 20 years.
Awesome.
So if you want to reach me, also feel free to reach me on laserbeamqueen.com. But I'm happy to have, if there's anyone that wants to talk, connect. I love connecting with other people in the industry and meeting people even far away too, because by the way, I'm in a college town. People are leaving and coming all the time. So for the rest of you lovely practitioners, please tell me where you are so that way when my people leave, I have nice places to put them. But yeah, please, and don't be shy to reach out. If you've been nervous to come into a place like this, like we love you. Like you will be so loved. I spoil people. We actually, one really quick thing, like when you come in, we got squishies. You're going to get a warm blanket. There's a bubble gum machine in
That's
my
awesome.
room. We have snacks. We have beverages. Like we are here to make this such a good experience for you because we really do love you.
Awesome. Well, Jennifer, this was amazing. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your energy and thank you for sharing your message.
Thank you, thank you. It was I really, really am grateful and flattered to be able to have this moment with you all today. And again, thank you so much, and you were great.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.